Hello Sobat Telkom, and in this edition of Heard on the Street, we will be taking you to Bali, where Telkom subsidiary Telin is holding the Bali Annual Telkom International Conference, or Batic. At this event, it gathers around 1,000 participants from 300 companies from 40 countries all around the world. And here, they'll be discussing about the various trends in the digital telco industry. And to know more, we will be discussing it with the speakers, who are also the experts who will be speaking at the conference. Now, Sobat Telkom, we have with us Vincent Stevens, Senior Managing Director at Delta Partners. Hello, Vincent, how are you?
Good afternoon. I'm well, thank you.
And thank you for joining us here on Heard on the Street. And speaking of digital technology, of course, as we can see, the trends that is ever changing, Vincent, and of course the challenges the industry face. Can you please tell us more on your views on that?
Specifically on the challenges?
Yes.
I think today we've already seen during the day one a lot of that. I think for me personally, the first challenge is a war for talent. Telcos need to get good people to drive innovation, to drive efficiency, and that is increasingly more difficult with tech that takes a lot of the talent away. So that I definitely see as one of the key challenges of the telco industry. I think too is the telcos also face increasingly more complexity, more services, more innovations that they need to efficiently interweave in their strategy. So how do you deal with a variety of technology services? There's an overload at services that they need to offer, evaluate, and really picking the winners and driving that efficiently to their customers is the second challenge I see.
How about with keeping up with the trends, the ever-changing trends in the industry?
Well, I think conferences like these definitely help in keeping up with the trends. There's a lot of knowledge sharing that goes on. I see a lot of energy in this event that takes place. I think you also need to test and experiment, right? For example, let's take metaverse. How do you drive metaverse without trying it, open innovation? If you don't trial services, it's difficult to really pick the winners. So I think trial and error is definitely something that telcos need to embrace. Telcos historically come from kind of a carrier-grade approach where everything needs to be 99.99%. Now increasingly it's about A/B testing, trialing products, failing cheap, and moving on. So that is really an attitude I think telcos are increasingly adopting and need to adopt to stay ahead of the curve.
And speaking of trends, can you please tell us about the key trends that we need to pick up on, especially beyond 5G, the IoT?
Yeah, no, interesting question. For me, 5G IoT are enabling technologies that drive a vast ecosystem of services. Now, each service is a bit particular. We have consumer services, enterprise services. 5G IoT for me creates a world of needs, specific needs, that then lead to, for me, a big trend of personalization. How can a telco really create bespoke services to a consumer or an enterprise? Not one size fits all. That leads me to the second trend, which is in order to enable personalization, automatization needs to become a critical platform enabler. You can only deliver personalization on scale when the backend, the middleware is automated and the interfaces with your customers are highly digitized. In order to do that, telcos need to continue to innovate, invest in platforms, and listen to the customer. That way, I think IoT 5G has a tremendous future ahead in a variety of services that we will see across the board.
Okay. Innovate, invest, and also listen to the customers.
Yes.
With the competition that is going on, can you please tell us how can the industry continue to perform?
Yeah, interesting you say competition, because I think the first question is, who do telcos compete with? First of all, with themselves,
yes,
right? But increasingly with other parts of the value chain. The first answer, I think, is telcos need to increasingly become better at their core business. How can I deliver the cheapest gigabyte to the customer? How can I make sure that the network connectivity is the best, low latency? That is the question they need to answer. Efficiency is a critical part of that, especially for shareholder returns. The second part of the question is increasingly competition is not with the telcos, but other parts of the value chain. How do we stay relevant as telco against the other parts? This is where collaboration in the telcos, standardization needs to become a part of their DNA. The problem with telcos is that they're scattered across the globe and fighting with very big global firms. So for me, collaboration, standardization, interfaces between the telcos, and also automated interfaces are increasingly more relevant. And today we've seen that people talk about it in the conference extensively, automatization, network as a service. I think that is a critical enabler for telco to compete with that other part of the value chain.
And one of the highlights that is being talked about these days globally is about transformation. How can we ensure and also deliver a broader digital ecosystem and ensure alignment, especially to ensure the digital global transformation itself?
Yeah, I think the key word here is collaboration. International carriers operate in overlapping or different parts of the world, but they have the same mission, which is delivering global digital infrastructure. They have the same mission. In that way, they need to collaborate and think as a global entity or providers of that infrastructure. That means that they need to collaborate on network interconnectivity. And as we've again seen today, a lot of the discussion happens, how do we collaborate? It is through automatization, it's through digitization of the interfaces between these telcos. Conferences like these set a common vision of the future, but also enable the collaboration between these telcos. A common vision is critical. The industry needs to come together and say, what is the future of that digital infrastructure, and jointly work together towards that future. Conferences like Batic are a great platform to establish that ecosystem.
And give that opportunity for everyone to come together.
Exactly.
And Vincent, from your experiences, what are the key components in ensuring a successful growth strategy for telcos and also digital telcos?
Yeah. For me, a good strategy is not a strategy of inclusion, but exclusion, which means a good strategy means focusing on a few things and doing those extremely well. For me, a poor strategy is where you spread yourself too thin across too many things. So a good strategy is to focus on fewer things and do them extremely well. Now, those things need to be close to the core. You can't stray too far from the core business. So a good strategy for the telcos would be you build from your strength and you venture into a few adjacencies where you really try to become good. What's very important in this is that there's commitment, cash flow commitment. Telcos often chase quarterly profits. Unfortunately, growing sometimes means investing. So really getting your shareholders on board in a good shareholder value story is critical to find buy-in from your shareholders in those few bets that telcos will do.
All right, Vincent. And this brings us to the next question, which is, how do you see the role of thought leadership and also collaborative initiatives in the industry and also companies?
Yeah, so events like Batic, I think, are a great forum for thought leadership. I thought the audience was sharing a lot of insights and great, knowledge. For me, this thought leadership is critical to have a common vision, to again enable that collaboration that I've talked about before, and really creating a global platform with that unified vision. That is only possible if there's open sharing of knowledge, visions, and collaboration in the industry.
Okay, collaboration within the industry. It's something you have emphasized many times throughout our discussion. And Vincent, for this year's Batic, can you please share with us your views, especially on the discussions held, on the panel sessions, and your comments on the event?
Well, first of all, I'm impressed. So I'm lucky because this is not my first Batic. I've done Batics since before COVID, and I must say it's growing every year. I see people coming from further away. I see people coming from different industries. So this is becoming almost a telco tech conference more than international carrier as such. I see a lot of excitement. I mean, you see it behind us. People talk, people meet. It's an exciting time, and it shows that the future of telco and tech is bright.
The future of telco and tech is bright, and we can see it here at Batic. Thank you very much, Vincent Stevens, for sharing your thoughts and insights with us on Heard on the Street.
You're welcome.
And Sobat Telkom, that was our discussion with Vincent Stevens, Senior Managing Director at Delta Partners. And stay with us on Heard on the Street for our next episode with more speakers from the Batic conference here in Bali.